Hi everyone. It's great to be here, and it's great to be amongst such interesting and cool speakers. My name is Adam Wells. I am an industrial designer by trade and a design director for Virgin Group here in the US. And I've been doing that for about 10 years. I've been working in a number of Virgin companies that including airlines, so Virgin Atlantic and Virgin America in particular, where my sort of background was designing products for their interiors, for their aircraft. So if you've flown on Virgin Atlantic's business class, their sort of upper class suite that turns into a bed is something that I helped to invent and design. And then I came over here to help launch Virgin America and sort of design the product and experience that's associated with their aircraft. Hopefully you've had a chance to fly. But my role really has two facets. One is as a problem solver. So when we're identifying new markets that we're going to move into, we sort of make an assessment as to what we think is wrong in those markets and sort of challenge the status quo and figure out what we can do to improve those experiences. And then the second is more as a sort of designer and making sure that the things that we make or the environments that we create embody the Virgin brand values and brand qualities, and basically sort of make sure that the experience is enhanced to the maximum that we can. And I guess that's a sort of long-winded way of saying what I need to say, which is fundamentally, I work for Virgin and I'm an industrial designer. Much more succinct. The reason why I'm going to sort of focus on that for my talk today is just because the theme is really that industrial designers don't necessarily have to work for manufacturers. That's our sort of background. We've always sort of made consumer goods that people buy once and then use. But the sort of discipline has always been associated with manufacturing. But the way things are changing in our world today, there is scope, I believe, for industrial designers to start extracting themselves from that process and to actually work for service providers or people who, or businesses that deliver experiences. Virgin is obviously not a manufacturer. They hire me because they recognize that products have a role to play in delivering service and experience. And I guess the first step to understanding this is that an industrial designer's output doesn't necessarily have to be physical. It can be intangible. It can be an experience. For example, the lighting solutions that we have on Virgin America, they help make you feel better and sort of relax a little bit more, and hopefully with other things that we do, that leads you to sort of enjoy your flight a little bit more than you would otherwise do. So it's a completely intangible solution, but it delivers a product advantage for a service provider. So that's quite different to the way that industrial designers have formerly sort of operated. Secondly, sort of today's consumers are increasingly having stronger relationships with service brands as opposed to with manufacturer brands, and that marks a very important shift in terms of who has the right really, or who is best placed to call the shots in terms of the design process. So, I mean, for example, and that really changes our relationship with products as well. So, for example, if you take a new service model like a zip car, for example, that completely changes our relationship to automotive products, or it could do. Businesses like that could do. Similarly, you know, a business like Snapfish, who can print your photos for you, eliminates the need entirely to buy home printing equipment. And you know, industrial design basically needs to sort of change and sort of adapt to the world in which the players like that sort of operate. And I think that these factors indicate a really positive shift that we're making towards the future, where we consume less, where we are lighter weight, where we focus our sort of attention on how it feels to use products instead of the products themselves. But given the sort of mass effect of our evolving consumption habits, it sort of raises the question as to how industrial designers translate their skills from thinking about things into thinking about the way that people interact with things and with brands. And I think that good industrial design is really well placed to do that. Good industrial design has always been about how things, the way things are, rather than a marketing photo, or rather than necessarily, there's a lot of sort of products that exist out there for the sake of whimsy, for example. And I think that we're moving towards a scenario where consumers are getting sort of more intelligent and are buying products as tools to get where they want to go in terms of offering an experience that they want to have, and basically just to have fun. And I think that one of the industrial designers are really well placed to sort of react to this shift. If you look at some of the skills that we have, they're very highly sort of transferable. We're very aspiration oriented. We think a few years ahead. We're hyper-critical consumers with very finely tuned quality barometers. And we're able to sort of quickly identify where problems are and to sort of propose conceptual solutions as to how we might resolve those. And those are completely transferable skills, I believe, that can help us move into the world of service and experience businesses instead of with manufacturers. I think it's those service companies that are going to be the new sponsors for our craft, and I think that they're going to have the strongest relationship with the customer, which places them as the best people to think about what people really need. For example, I'd argue that like even a company that has nothing to do with manufacturing or product today, someone like a YouTube or a Flickr, I'd hazard a guess to say that you probably have a stronger relationship with a brand like that in the field of photography than you do necessarily with Canon or with Sony or the people who make the sort of devices with which we take imagery. And I think that they would be better placed in many ways to create or to design or to add the functions that they need to the physical products that we carry around with us, whether they're in mobile phones or anything else. So, and to optimize them for use with their service. If we interact with their services more frequently than we do with the sort of buttons and gadgets on the actual product itself, then I think that they sort of should start to dominate the decision-making process in terms of the way that we optimize our products. And I think that it would be great if industrial designers were to start applying themselves to challenges that were not just about products. Wouldn't it be cool if instead of, for example, like in my own sort of background in air transport, one of the biggest nightmares right now is the security screening process. It's, we all know it's an absolute nightmare. But that's something that I'm completely certain industrial designers, if they put their hand to it, and fortunately the TSA is actually starting to open dialogues with designers, we could fix that. There are physical extensions of that experience. There are implications and there are reasons why things don't happen as smoothly as they should, which I think that industrial designers could help solve. Or if the other sort of huge one that we're facing right now is packaging and the redefinition of what role packaging is going to play in our future. Industrial designers are perfect to solve some of those problems and to use new material technologies and to basically redefine how we sustainably package everything that we buy and consume on a daily basis. That's going to be one of the bigger sort of endeavors that I think industrial designers are going to get involved with. But lastly, I think the biggest, just returning to the sort of service idea, I think one of the biggest things that we're going to see is industrial designers starting to work for service operators and to optimize their products for those users. And at the end of the day, it's a little bit like a London taxi. That product is completely optimized for its use. It is a vehicle that has been designed and has all of the sort of design decisions and prioritizations of sort of compromises that you have to make when you're developing products have been made to deliver a vehicle that performs its function beautifully. And if you compare that with other examples that haven't been optimized for their service or for their operators. That's the sort of difference that I hope that we can make. So I challenge the non-traditional brands out there, and perhaps there are some that you work with, perhaps there are some that that are clients of yours, to think about, even if they're completely not a manufacturer or not involved in product, there is probably some sort of physical extension of their brand in some way. And I would challenge you to sort of think about that and to approach an industrial designer to help you flesh out any ideas that you might have to try and make those real and to realize those potentials. Thanks very much.